Hello, high school scholars and all the adults who care so much about you. I'm John Baylor, founder of OnToCollege. Let's talk about TestOptional. TestOptional admissions policies mean, hey, that college will look at you whether you submit an ACT or SAT test score or not. Or if it's a merit-based or need-based scholarship, they'll consider you whether you submit a score or not. TestOptional. Well, TestOptional has a word that's a bit misleading. Optional. For example, exercise is optional, but we ought to do it. Filling out the FAFSA is optional, but most families ought to fill it out. And extracurriculars are optional, but we ought to do it. I mean, college-savvy applicants know that to maximize scholarships and the likelihood of just getting in, that the FAFSA is really helpful, and an extracurricular is really helpful. But also jumping that ACT score or jumping that SAT score is equally helpful. Why? Because TestOptional does not mean test blind. If you submit a score, they're going to look at it. And it can be a big help. For example, the University of Chicago is a highly selective college, and it's been TestOptional. And you not have to submit a test score to be considered for admission. But 90% of applicants submit a test score at the University of Chicago when they don't have to. Why do 90% submit a test score? It helps distinguish them. You see, if it's you versus someone else and you submit a solid test score, even though, yeah, they're eligible, this is another source of reassurance for the scholarship committee, for the admissions office. If you put up a nice score, it can really help distinguish you in a world where a lot of applicants have a lot of nice GPAs. You supplement that with a score, it can help distinguish you. Here's what the case is normally in the state of Nebraska. Our fabulous state colleges are called Chadron State and Wayne State and Peru State College, and they're really good values. And tuition retail sticker is $5,500 a year. But if you jump that ACT score to just a 21, they can cut it in half, and to a 25, you might be eligible for free tuition. And by the way, this is not just for Nebraska residents at Peru and at Chadron. And Wayne's a fabulous value as well. But look at the power of a higher ACT score and the financial impact. This is still in play today. And what about the University of Nebraska system? We've got 3 great campuses, Kearney and Omaha and Lincoln. And for in-state residents at Kearney, UNK, you put up a 29 on your ACT, you should be eligible for free tuition called a Regent Scholarship. A 30 at UNO in Omaha, you should be eligible for free tuition called a Regent Scholarship. And at UNL, hey, that tuition cost just keeps plummeting thanks to a higher score. It's the best paying job you'll ever have in high school, still today, even in this TestOptional environment. Why? Because, yes, they'll consider applicants with a certain GPA for these big scholarships. However, in some instances, that GPA has yet to be announced, and it's going to be a big, big number. And just in case your GPA is insufficient, you've got this insurance policy called a high test score. Now, these just happen to be Nebraska examples. A lot of states have a very similar scenario. The higher the score, the higher the scholarship. Be sure in your state to check your public and private colleges for just what financial impact you can have thanks to a higher score. Max that score and maximize your likelihood, even in a TestOptional environment, of winning the money and getting in. Because the GPA alone might win the scholarships, but it might not. You throw in a solid ACT score or SAT score and your likelihood just increased. Merit-based scholarships. That test score can really help. But also, what about for those of us who are eligible for need-based aid? Now, how do test scores affect need-based aid? First of all, need-based aid is primarily for students from families making less than $100,000 a year. And need-based aid offers from colleges rarely meet a student's full financial need. You might be eligible for a big chunk of money, and the college rarely fully meets that amount. And that was before college budgets got really squeezed because of the pandemic. And colleges often use scores when determining the amount of need-based aid they award each student. So your family makes less than $100,000 a year, or maybe even less than $150,000 a year. You should be eligible for some need-based aid still, depending on where you're applying. And you're up against a lot of other students with comparable grades. And you also submit a solid score. What have you just said to that financial aid office? Look, I'm college ready. I'm likely to graduate. And that financial aid office has only a finite amount of precious need-based aid. You're more likely to get more of what you qualify for. Jump that score. It maximizes your likelihood of winning the merit-based scholarship and maximizing your need-based aid. So here's a real-life example of the financial impact of jumping your ACT or SAT score. Derek is a former student of ours at OnToCollege, and he attended Millard West High School in the Omaha area, and his GPA was okay, but not sufficient to win huge merit-based dollars. So he focused on his score, jumped 7 points, and kaboom, free tuition at the University of Alabama, where he just graduated, never having spent a dime on tuition over 4 years. He has launched, never spent any money on tuition dollars there. So if you're a school and you're ready to jump your overall average ACT score and change the lives of those kids thanks to higher scores and higher scholarships, build ACT or SAT prep into your schedule and increase your scores with us at OnToCollege. We work with hundreds and hundreds of high schools across the country. What if you're in the eastern Nebraska area and you want to send your student to our live classes? No problem. Engaging, effective ACT preparation classes in Omaha and Lincoln online. Prepare for the ACT or SAT anytime, anywhere. We have one-on-one tutoring tailored just for your child with one of our fabulous OnToCollege tutors. And then we have college counseling as well, whether online or in person, customized just for you. Jump your scores, jump your scholarships. You maximize those scores, you're going to maximize your likelihood of winning that money. Test optional means option only for those who are excited about paying full price.